Greetings, everyone. Welcome to English Digest. My name is Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And today it's our science unit for the month of December, and we're going to be talking about static electricity, which is when you get that shock when you walk up some stairs or something and you touch the banister or you touch the railing. Ow!
Ooh.
I got electric shot there. That's static electricity. For me, that always seems to happen when I ride on the escalator at Carrefour, 家乐福.
Really?
For some reason, it's kind of weird. Whenever I touch the escalator handle and my finger goes too far over and touches the metal on the other side, I get an electric shock, and I hate that when that happens.
I haven't had that happen to me here. I used to have it happen a lot because carpeting in a home can cause that. If you shuffle your feet along on the carpet and then you touch something, it can shock you. The other day, though, we were celebrating one of the kids in my class, his birthday, and we were blowing up balloons, and someone took the balloon and was rubbing it on his head, and it made his hair stand up. That's static electricity, too.
Well, we used to do that. We'd rub our hair with the balloon and then stick it to the ceiling, and the balloon would stick up there for, 30 seconds or so before it fell off.
Kind of fun.
But yes, indeed, that's all about static electricity, and we're also going to be talking about the man who did some research concerning electricity and static electricity, none other than Benjamin Franklin, who was never an American president, but he was present at the beginning of the United States there in the Continental Congress in Philadelphia, and I believe his picture is on one of our bills. I can't remember which one, maybe the $500 bill? I'll have to look that up during our break, but in any case, let's find out what this is all about. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson now one time. Have you ever touched a metal rail and felt a jolt of electricity? Or rubbed a balloon on your hair so the balloon can stick to a wall? If so, you've experienced static electricity. While these are minor demonstrations, it was Benjamin Franklin's experiments with static electricity that paved the way for the electrical revolution we're enjoying today. But what precisely is static electricity? Static electricity is an immobile buildup of electrical charge. It's generated via repeated contact, often when two things rub against each other. To comprehend this, we have to understand the structure of an atom. The nucleus of an atom contains protons with a positive charge and neutrons with no charge whatsoever. Electrons with a negative charge orbit the nucleus. Normally, an atom has an equal number of protons and electrons, but contact between two atoms can cause the electrons to be more attracted to one atom than the other. They're transferred, leaving one atom with fewer electrons and thus a positive charge. This gives the other atom, which now has more electrons, a negative charge. This can even happen with atoms in the air, which is how we get lightning. In fact, it was lightning that was the key to an important breakthrough in electricity research. Benjamin Franklin conducted an experiment by flying a kite in a storm. He'd attached a metal wire to the kite to attract lightning with the intention of capturing its electricity in a special jar. To protect himself, he thought it prudent to hold the kite string with a silk ribbon rather than touch it directly. The experiment worked, proving that lightning is electrical in nature and led to the invention of the lightning rod for protecting buildings. It also inspired further experiments to conduct and store electricity so that it could power the inventions of the modern world.
Okay, guys, let's get started. It's our science unit. I'm not a big fan of science, but we're also going to be talking about Benjamin Franklin. And I do like history. Benjamin Franklin was a very interesting character. He had a lot of different roles in life. You could say he was a diplomat. He went to France for many years and acted as a diplomat for a new United States. He was an author. He wrote some great things. He was very wise. He would come up with some really great sayings that are still true today. He was a scientist as well and an inventor. He was just kind of a Renaissance man, you could say. He had a lot of talents. He was born in 1706. He died in 1790.
So he's dead. I didn't even know he was sick. But he's no longer with us, of course, and he's been dead for a long time. And as promised, I did find out what bill he's
what's
on.
he on?
He's on the $100 bill in American money. So, of course, if you run across that money when you're traveling in the U.S., hey, there'll be a picture of Benjamin Franklin on the $100 bill. So again, we're talking about the static electricity miracle. A miracle, of course, is something that doesn't happen too often. It's an act of God, basically. And we're going to begin our article by asking a question. Have you ever touched a metal rail and felt a jolt of electricity? Now, here, of course, a jolt of something, especially electricity, is a sudden surge of that thing or a push or a sudden explosion of that thing. Sometimes, of course, we might have a jolt of electricity in our electric circuits, so you need to have a circuit breaker so you don't burn out your electronics and your computer and stuff like that. There might be a surge or a jolt of electricity. And yes, sometimes if you touch a metal rail or walk across a carpet and then touch the wall or something, you'll get an electric shock.
Yeah, that would happen to me a lot growing up. I would also play with the balloons. We're going to talk about that. If you take a balloon and you rub it on your hair or someone else's hair, you can stick it to a wall. You could stick it to the ceiling. I like to do it because I just like to see the hair that would stand up on someone's head. But this is all part of static electricity. And it has something to do with science. We'll get into that in a minute. While these are minor demonstrations, they're pretty simple. They're everyday occurrences. This happens all around us. It was Benjamin Franklin's experiments with static electricity that paved the way for the electrical revolution we're enjoying today. We can look back and say, "Thank you, Ben, for giving us the ability to have electricity," which changes our lives. It's changed the world to have electricity. So if we don't have electricity, it's like living in the dark ages again. So if you pave the way for something or pave the way for someone, it means you're the first person, you're the pioneer that makes a trail for someone else to follow. So they're following in your footsteps. Now, if you pave a road, it just gets smoother. Before a road is paved with asphalt or concrete or something like that, it's just usually rock or dirt, and it's kind of rough to go on. But once something is paved, it's very smooth. So the people following somebody who paves the way, they have an easier time doing whatever they're about to do.
Yep, they established the foundation for something. They did the groundwork, you could say. So, yes, indeed, his experiments paved the way for the electrical revolution of the 1800s. So people had electric lights. They didn't have to rely on oil lamps or candles and things to see at night. They could have electric lights and maybe electric vehicles and appliances and stuff like that. And if we talk about a big change in something, we say it's a revolution. Of course, if there's a big war in a country to change the government, like what happened in France in the 1790s, that would be a revolution, the French Revolution or the American Revolution, the Mexican Revolution, etc., etc. But also the word revolution talks about a big change, like the computer revolution, which started, I guess in the 1970s when no one had computers, and nowadays everybody has one.
Yeah, those early computers were big enough to fill a room. There was no way everybody could have their own. So, yeah, it was a big moment for us because nowadays we have easy access to electricity. But what precisely is static electricity? Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of this definition. Nitty-gritty just means the really small parts of something so that you understand it. So static electricity is an immobile buildup of electrical charge, that is. Immobile means it's not moving. Mobile phones can move around with you, right? Or some people have little kids, little babies that are born, and you'll hang up something we call a mobile that just moves around over their heads and keeps them entertained if they wake up and their parents aren't able to get them out of their crib immediately. Mobile phones. Now, if you're in England, guys, you should know that they pronounce those phones as mobiles. Oh, my mobile. It's a little different than the American pronunciation of mobile. Now, if you put an IM in front of a word, it means the opposite. So it's not mobile.
Exactly. So you might sit immobile for a long period of time. You're just not moving. You're not doing anything. Like if you're working in the office, sitting behind your computer terminal, yes, you are immobile. You're not moving around. And yes, the electricity builds up in a certain place. Build up here is one word. That is a noun. It refers to the process of things building up. And the verb phrase is build up, 2 words. So electricity builds up, or there is a buildup of an electrical charge, and it's generated via repeated contact, often when 2 things rub against each other. So repeated contact means touching something over and over again. So that's where this buildup of static electricity occurs. It occurs or it happens when 2 things rub against each other many, many times or repeatedly.
So it's generated via repeated contact. Generated just means produced. So often when 2 things rub against each other, this happens. To comprehend this, to understand this, we have to understand the structure of an atom. If you've been to science class, you know what an atom is. It's the basic unit of a chemical element. It's very tiny. And these particles are a source of nuclear energy as well. So the nucleus of an atom is the very center part, right? And it contains protons. They have a positive charge and neutrons with no charge whatsoever. They're kind of neutral. That's where that comes from, neutral. Neutrons and protons. Whatsoever, what does whatsoever mean? It means at all. So just you could honestly say the neutrons have no charge at all. But whatsoever is another way you can say it.
Right, or somebody could ask me, hey, Tom, do you want to go hiking this weekend? I have no interest whatsoever. Hiking is very tiresome, and I'm out of shape, and I do not want to go hiking, so I have no interest whatsoever. And neutrons have no charge whatsoever. They have no charge at all. And that brings us to the midway point in our lesson for today. Let's stop talking now and let our Chinese teacher talk to you for now.
听众朋友，大家好。我们今天的科学单元要来带大家看一下静电这种东西，不过文章设计成篇章结构。那当然，如果你的文意理解呢，文章啊或者是字汇量都很大，你可以从头到尾这样子看没有错。但是为了要让这个作答的速度快一点，其实可以先看一下选项。比如说呢，我们看到 A 这个选项 ，A 选项说通常啊 ，an atom。原子啊，它里面就有质子啊、电子啊。那 A 选项基本上就是在说明原子的一些物理现象，它可能会被藏在文章比较中间的地方。好，那么 B 选项呢，看到的是 The experiment worked， 这个实验有效哦，所以在 B 选项前面一定提到某一种实验。C 选项一开始就说，为了要了解这件事情，我们必须要了解一下原子的结构。好，它暗示着你第一 ，C 选项一定会在 A 选项前面。第二，这个 this 为了要了解这个东西，这个东西是什么东西呢？它的前文一定会有一个莫名其妙你搞不清楚的状况。好，那么猪就发问了，到底什么是静电啊？我们的文章常常会有把一个问句当成主题句，放在文章最前面，引起读者去思考、去共鸣的这个问句，所以我们猜猪啊，这个 D 的答案很有可能会出现在文章一开始的时候。好，接着我们就要真的来看文章咯。这个文章啊，它一开始就说，你有没有曾经感觉到被电呢？或者是你的头发摩擦气球，这气球还可以粘在墙上，这就是我们所谓的静电。在第一句话当中，我们先看到了一个问句。第一段的第4句，他提到 他说虽然呢，我们刚刚讲的那些都是小小的演示啦，就是演示所谓静电这个东西，但是这其实就是 Benjamin Franklin 他的静电实验啊，正是因为他有这些静电实验，所以才能造就今天我们所能够拥有的这些所谓电气革命。好，接着就来到我们第一题啦。但是在第一题之前，我们先看一下第一段的第4句。首先这里的 while 根据文意它是 although 虽然的意思。虽然我们刚刚讲说我们都有静电啊，这个发生过静电这样的状况，逗点之后的 it was 跟 that 特别框起来，它是强调句型。富兰克林的电的实验就是会造成我们现在的电气革命这件事情，我们要强调的就是因为这个实验，所以我们把 Benjamin Franklin's experiments with static electricity 放在 it was 跟 that 的中间。不过第一个真的很难判断呢，所以篇章结构其实作答的一个技巧就是你不能只看上面，你也要看下面。第二段的第一句来看到，他说静电啊，它其实就是电在定点的一种累积哦。言下之意，它就是在回答第一题的问题。好，那到底静电是什么东西？所以根据上下文的判断，第一题答案选 D。好，接着我们就来看静电到底是什么东西啊？静电如果是电荷，它在定点的一种累积，那它怎么会产生呢？其实它是透过反复的接触所产生的，通常是两个东西互相摩擦的时候，就会产生所谓的静电。那产生静电之后，到了第二段的第二题，我们又不晓得要选什么啦。好，摩擦就产生静电啊，又怎样嘞？第二题之后，我们知道篇章结构也要从下文去看，所以下面他说原子核里面有质子还有中子哦，所以它的文意要过渡到原子这个东西，所以第二题答案就选 C 啦。为了要了解 this 这种静电这个事情，我们要先了解一下原子它的结构。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's continue with our lesson. We are talking about static electricity. We've probably all experienced it at one time or another. This happens when things rub up against each other constantly, and therefore an electric charge builds up, and then it is released with a jolt of electricity. And again, in order to understand this, we need to understand the structure of an atom. Of course, as you know, the nucleus of an atom has protons, and those have a positive charge, and the neutrons in the nucleus have no charge at all. They have no charge whatsoever. Now, also in an atom are the electrons. Electrons with a negative charge orbit the nucleus. Orbit here is a verb. It refers to the action of going in circles around something. So in the solar system, of course, the moon orbits the Earth orbits the sun, Jupiter orbits the sun. You get the idea.
Right, so normally an atom has an equal number of protons and electrons, but contact between two atoms can cause the electrons to be more attracted to one atom than the other. So they kind of jump between those atoms. They are transferred. That's what jumping between them refers to, leaving one atom with fewer electrons and thus a positive charge. This gives the other atom, which now has more electrons, a negative charge. So suddenly, one's positive and one's negative, and this can happen with atoms in the air, which is how we get lightning, which I didn't know until now. So in fact, it was lightning that was the key to an important breakthrough in electricity research. When you have a breakthrough, and it doesn't have to just be in science, you can have a breakthrough in your career, which means you feel like you've kind of, hit hit a point where you're not progressing anymore, and if you have a breakthrough, suddenly you're moving ahead again. Now, if you have a breakthrough in science, they have an important discovery that kind of changes everything. It can be sudden and dramatic and really lead to big changes depending on what that breakthrough is.
Right, okay, so unless we understood that, if we hadn't understood how those electrons work, then we would not have had electricity or the important breakthrough in electricity research. Now, somebody very responsible for this early discovery is Benjamin Franklin, or at least it was him, and he conducted an experiment by flying a kite in a storm. So here we've got the verb to conduct. In this particular case, he undertook an experiment. He performed an experiment. So conduct can also refer to someone, say, conducting a train if you're an engineer, or conducting an orchestra if you're the conductor. And don't confuse this with the noun form conduct. That refers to your behavior in a certain situation. Franklin, or I should use a different name, Joe was expelled from school for bad conduct. But here it's being used as a verb. So Ben Franklin there conducted an experiment, and what he did is he flew a kite in a storm. That sounds kind of dangerous. Regular people should not do that.
Maybe he didn't know. I don't know. It was a while ago. I wanted to mention this word conduct or conduct. It makes a big difference the way you pronounce it, guys. Some of our words like transfer, those don't really matter. This one matters. So if it's the verb, it has to be conduct. So the emphasis is on duct, conduct, whereas the noun is conduct. So be careful. If you use the wrong pronunciation, people will have a puzzled look on their face, like, what are you talking about? He conducted an experiment by flying a kite in the storm, which we don't do these days. You can be struck by lightning. Be careful. He'd attached a metal wire to the kite to attract lightning with the intention of capturing its electricity in a special jar. He probably didn't even think. Well, no, he knows. He tried to protect himself too. If you attach something to something else, you just fix them together so that they're joined. So he attached that metal wire to the kite in order to actually attract lightning. He was saying, hey, lightning, come on over and hit my kite, which is very, very dangerous. If you have an intention to do something or intention to get something done, it just means this is what you plan to do. It's your goal, it's your aim, and it's part of a plan. So his intention was actually capturing the electricity in a special jar.
Right. Intention is the noun. To intend is the verb. I intend to seek the presidency in the next election, for example.
Good luck, Tom.
Yeah, it's very hard. There's lots of people who'd like that position as well. But again, his intention was to capture the electricity in a special jar. A jar is a container usually made out of glass. And of course, nowadays we have, say, a jar of peanut butter or a jar of jam or whatever. And to protect himself, he thought it prudent to hold the kite string with a silk ribbon rather than touch it directly. Now, if you think of something as being prudent, that means you think it is suitable or it is something that you should do and it's something you should be careful with. So he thought it prudent, advisable, it was a good idea.
Wise.
It was wise to do, indeed. He was going to hold the kite string not directly with his hand, but he was going to use a silk ribbon rather than touch it directly. And I suppose that stopped him from being electrocuted.
To death. Yes, that will often just lead to someone's death. Now, the experiment worked, proving that lightning is electrical in nature. That's what he thought it was, and through his experiment, he was able to prove his hypothesis, and that led to the invention of the lightning rod. And we're still using lightning rods today to protect buildings, which is all thanks to Mr. Ben Franklin, which is kind of cool because we're still using that invention today.
Exactly. The lightning rod, of course, will attract the lightning so it doesn't hit something else. And again, it's like a tall pole or something, and we use it again to protect buildings. It also inspired further experiments to conduct and store electricity so that it could power the inventions of the modern world. It did take some time before electricity was common or commonplace. That's what happens oftentimes with these early discoveries. They need to do experiments over many years until they can start getting some improvements from it. So yes, he understood the concept of electricity, but he probably did not understand how to make an electric toaster or a refrigerator or something like that, let alone to invent the light bulb, which happened many years later.
Yeah. Not until the 1800s. So, yeah, but we're so grateful to Mr. Ben for leading the way, paving the way for an electrical revolution that we've been telling you about. Because of his, I guess, kind of crazy experiment, we found out that lightning does have an electrical nature or an electrical charge. So that's it. So we told you a little bit about static electricity. The next time you take a balloon and you rub it on a friend's hair or head to get their hair to stand on end, you'll know that it's because of this man many, many years ago. We're going to listen one more time to our Chinese teacher now.
不过啊，我们要来看一下原子的这个结构到底如何呢？原子大家来用笔画一下，先画一个圈圈，里面给它质子 protons 跟中子 neutrons。protons 呢，它给它旁边再改一个正号，它就是带正电。中子完全不带电哦，这个完全不带电就出现在刚刚我们第二段第4句最后一个字，有没有 whatsoever 就是等于2个字叫做 at all， 它跟前面的 no 是有绝对关系的。No charge whatsoever 就是完全不带电。好，那么我们把这个小圈圈外面再画几个轨道，这个轨道上面给它负号，它是带负电的 electrons， 它是带负电的电子。第二段的第5句这个地方有没有看到 electrons 电子，它是 with a negative charge， 它是带负电的。后面的 orbit 在这里是当动词哦，就是按照轨道来运行的意思。好，所以接下来我们都是在谈这些物理的现象。到了第6句，也就是第3题的时候，当然会选 A 嘛。负电被转移的时候，就会留下比较少的这个有一些 atom， 有一些原子就会有比较少的负电，有一些又比较多的这个负电，这就造成电的一种堆积。好，那这又有什么重点呢？接下来到了第2段的第9句这个地方，如果电会这样跑来跑去的话，我们又看不到，谁看到了？其实大家都看到，就是闪电。第9句最后面我们看到它有一个这个补充说明的关系子句，先行词是 atoms in the air， 在空中的原子逗点之后的汇取到句尾，我们特别把它抓出来。我们看到的所谓的闪电，因为电透过水的流动就会发光啦。哦，原来闪电它是带电的耶。后来富兰克林就靠这个实验来证明这件事情。好，我们到了第3段的时候，第1句突然出现了实验，那言下之意后面的第4格当然要选 B 嘛。这实验就成功啦，因为富兰克林他就证明电在自由这个 nature 在自然界当中是真的有产生的，是真的有我们虽然看不到，可是它真的存在，也就导致了后面避雷针的一个发现。以上就是我们今天的内容，我是安娜，我们下次见。
That's it for today, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. And now you know a little bit more about electricity and static electricity. Hopefully, it will help you when you receive a jolt of electricity the next time you go up a flight of stairs. From all of us here at English Digest, my name is Tom.
And I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
See you next time.